Today, I want to talk about recruiting while unemployed versus recruiting while I was in investment banking. When I initially left my investment banking job, some headhunters had set up interviews with companies for a later date. So the interviews were scheduled after I had quit. Others had communicated with me via email, so I simply hadn't told them because it's a lot to explain over email, the reasons for quitting and what my plans were. For the first few weeks, I would just tell firms at the start of the interview when I'm introducing myself. One of them stopped my interview like halfway through and they were extremely short and rude with me. This was Sumitomo, the trading house, the Japanese trading house, in case you're curious. I want to name drop them because of their rudeness. And others canceled my second round interviews that were already scheduled when in the first round they found out. But to be fair, that firm was recruiting for summer 2024, and it's understandable if they want someone who has an extra 9 months of experience at the time, by the time summer rolls around. So this was back in October. I also told the headhunter before the Sumitomo interview, this was the one that stopped at midway, but she said that just let the interviewer know yourself. So that one is I was even transparent about. The second one, the headhunter was very upset and said they felt blindsided multiple times to me, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Another time, I did a first round with someone who was an associate, and then the second round was with a VP. This was at Lyric Capital, and they had scheduled another call with another person on the team directly after. And I gave my intro about 8 minutes in. I got an email saying that the second interviewer had to cancel. And then the first interviewer felt very rude as well. These people get annoyed that I'm wasting their time just because I quit. It's very, like, it just goes more into the corporate thing. It's if you don't have everything that's perfect for them, then they're just very, they don't see you as part of the in crowd. They don't see someone quitting an investment banking job as someone who's part of the in crowd and does in crowd things. They see you as high risk and crazy, etc. So yeah, that person basically canceled my second interview midway through the first one, even though they're supposed to be back to back. And also, yeah, the first interviewer seemed very rude. In Sumitomo, the guy was even saying, talking about, oh, private equity investing versus, because that's what they were doing, versus, for example, other types of investing, like public market. And I was saying how in public market investing, a lot of times you just invest and make your investment, and however it performs, it performs. But in private equity, it's more of a you take a more active approach where you're actually more of what's it called? You're actually doing things to the company to change it. One, the capital you provide creates a change for the company because they can now do more. And then you're also providing guidance to all your portfolio companies. And his reaction was like, oh, activist investing is for like public companies. That's not for private equity. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying, like passive versus activist investing, but I'm using it in the literal term, like an being active as an investor. But it was just things like that. He was just trying to find, like, he felt like I wasn't in the in crowd and he was trying to find ways to poke at it. Another firm where it was like, for example, I believe it was the headhunter had said that it was a multi-manager firm for some reason. So I said multi-strat on accident because these are just the terms that I'm hear more commonly. And when I mentioned that in an interview with the hedge fund, they were seemed very like, oh, you don't even know that sort of thing, even though it was just an honest mix up between what I read. And yeah, I didn't get a second round with him, even though I thought I answered perfectly. And when I asked him questions, he seemed also very short. The questions I would say, what do you think about the bank space? It seems like with people with the market predicting lower rate cuts, a lot of those banks that were trading at distressed levels because if rates were remaining higher, their margins would compress as deposit rates continually rise and catch up with where interest rates are, because that's what happens. Interest rates rise and the deposits rates, there's a lag. So the longer rates stay high, those deposit rates continually start to rise and press margins until they get eventually plateau. But there's a lot of banks that if those deposit rates continue to rise, it would compress their margins because their lending rates adjust immediately. As their margins start to compress, they would be in financial trouble, become unprofitable, and have to sell or potentially even have be in a distressed scenario, not just a low stock price, but actually have to sell or liquidate whatever it is, fail. And he just said it like he was like, oh yeah, I mean that's obvious, as if my questions don't add any value. And I noticed this in many interviews. It's typically like I can say the same things, but people will have very different reactions based off of what their preconceived notions are about me. So it's really just about getting someone where you get lucky where they tend to like you and view the things that you say as very intelligent. And it's just based off their impression. And when you say that you quit your job and you're traveling, etc., people just a lot of times in the industry, they're not used to hearing this and they get immediately a very bad impression of you. Headhunter, for example, I told a headhunter, hey, I left my firm. And they said, let me check with the private equity firm before your interview. And then just canceled it immediately after she got off the phone with me. Then she reached out 2 weeks later saying, oh, they actually do want to interview, which I thought I did very well, but I didn't hear back. But in that case, I think the headhunter just canceled it as, oh, I don't want to put this candidate forward. And then probably later changed it when the candidate she did put forward didn't work because she still wants to get that compensation. Selby Jennings, I will mention them by name. That's a headhunter that became much more active and helpful towards me after leaving my firm, whereas beforehand they were not helpful. So I don't know if that's just strategy, but wanted to call that out. A lot of firms, yeah, they're skeptical, and it seems like you need to convince them that there's nothing dangerous to your story. Oh, did you quit? Did you get fired? Why did you quit? Were there serious problems? And when I expressed my desire to leave my firm, my manager basically tried getting me to find my next job multiple times before officially quitting. Like, hey, you might want to find one before you quit. And they stopped giving me so much work, and it would have been weird at some point if I didn't get another job and they're still paying me. I'd recommend this strategy though, if you're considering moving but don't have time yet. Maybe say you're considering leaving, don't put in your official notice because you want to like say you want to consider an internal move. This privilege only exists or works if you have good rapport with your managers and have done good work for them and they would be supportive of it, of just retaining you in the organization. Then take a 1 week vacation. So say, hey, I'm thinking about leaving, maybe an internal move because I do like the firm. And then they'll go, okay, yeah, yeah. And then take a 1 week vacation to take some time to think, which is true. And obviously recruit like crazy during this time. And then they'll allocate your work to others while you're on vacay, knowing you and probably won't give you nearly as much work when you come back, knowing that you'll leave soon. And then you can use that extra free time to then recruit elsewhere. Otherwise, you could try the alternative, which is just become less responsive, work from home more, put in your staffing sheet that your capacity is full, call in for doctor's appointments whenever you have interviews or need to apply. And even if your team gets what's up, like, oh yeah, there's no way there's another doctor's appointment, they can't really do much. And if they do eventually let you go, you get a severance. You do run the risk of future interviewers or employers inquiring and potentially finding out, which can obviously diminish your chances of success in candidate selection processes. So hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but it's really the worst case scenario, which is not that bad. Hopefully the severance gives you enough time of pay to interview and overcome that potential pitfall if it comes to it. At the end of the day, I don't regret leaving though. I've always been risky, including turning down multiple full-time return offers from internships because I was confident I could do better. I also would do recruiting off cycle. So people would recruit a year and a half in advance and I'd participate every now and again in things that, when I had time, but I'd also just recruit a few months in advance as well and was able to get positions at top banks. And I think that's part of the reason is because more firms interview on cycle. That's true, but off cycle, there's a higher need for candidates. So the demand side is higher on the firm side and the candidate pool that is going up you're going up against is actually less competitive because the most competitive candidates are in the on cycle processes like a year and a half in advance. So my stacked resume that I had already built stood out. Now I am taking a big risk again. And even though my team recognized I was taking a big risk, they also preface saying they know I'll end up potentially somewhere better and be successful regardless because they all knew I was smart. I acted confident to reassure them as I wouldn't quit if I wasn't confident in my abilities, but I very well may have to move back in with my parents, which is what I'm doing now because my lease in New York is up. But that's not the worst thing. If I can do that and continue improving myself, working towards entrepreneurship, as well as spend time with my family, which I haven't had much time to. So that's pretty vital as well. But yeah, that's a little bit of taste about if you're thinking about leaving your current job. I would definitely advise those two strategies that I mentioned. So don't leave. I would say that you should essentially just tell the firm that maybe you're thinking of an internal promotion, take a week of vacation so they start siphoning off your work to others, and then use that extra free time you have now to recruit. or just lie to them and start taking doctor's appointments and working from home and saying you have meetings and saying you can't take more work on. And then in reality, you're just recruiting at that time. Because again, the worst thing they can do is let you go, in which case, again, you have severance. You can use that extra time of pay to find something and just treat applying like a full-time job. Wake up, set hours, 8 hours a day, have one lunch break or something, and don't be distracted. Don't be going on your phone. And if you pretty much treat anything like that, you'll be successful. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing what I did. The reactions I've gotten have been crazy. But yeah, I don't regret it because I can pay off all my debt. I don't need another job. I can always make money easily doing whatever. I'm not materialistic, so I don't have a lot of needs. And yeah, I'm going abroad to new countries, basically having girlfriends in different countries that are amazing and way more attractive than the US, like 10 out of 10s here, in my opinion. So I couldn't care less. I mean, I do care, but I don't regret leaving. I mean, I'm completely fine doing what I'm doing now. Yeah, but just my 2 cents. If you're in a financial situation you really care about that job, then I wouldn't advise leaving because it may be very difficult to get another job of the same caliber again because people just don't trust you, think you might leave again, question what your thought process of leaving in the first place. Yeah, if that was helpful and you're interested in learning more, following my journey, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comments down below, video ideas, things you want to see, what your thoughts are on me. If you think I'm a terrible person, if you think I'm stupid, if you think I'm a motivation for you and admiration, and you love to be able to be in my position and get a job where you can pay off all of your college debt your first year, things like that. So do all the algorithm things.